Hello there, my beautiful Libra signs. It's Rachael with Dark Knight Coaching. This video is all about you, Libra. This is going to be a general tarot reading. I do a general Celtic cross spread, and I kind of just go with the flow, whatever resonates. The messages that come out. But it's a very clear reading I pulled for you today. Before I get on camera, I usually meditate to music. That's kind of how I tap into my intuitive gifts. And the song I was listening to, the one that kind of just self-populated, as they sometimes do, was called Farewell by Hosier. So some of you are definitely going through a grief or a loss of some sort, because not only did that song resonate with losses and grief, you have the death in your subconscious energy at this time, Libra. So a lot of significant changes and shifts are happening for you. This doesn't have to be an actual literal death that you're experiencing, like a loss of a loved one or something like that. It can just be a loss of a relationship. It can be a loss of a lifestyle. It can be a loss of maybe a hope or a dream that you had once upon a time. So take this again as it resonates, Libra, but I'm going to go ahead and dive into the energy. The song Farewell it's kind of a what do they call that, like a double entendre. It has how they've spelt it for the title. The lyrics is kind of like a bidding of goodbye, but it's also kind of like I wish, like I hope you fare well on your next chapter. So I do feel like that is definitely a significant message for somebody out there. Your current energy here, Libra, is the Aquarius card of the star, which is healing. This is all about healing those trauma, wounds, codependency, attachment styles, maybe love languages or those sorts of things that didn't serve you in the past. It's kind of healing those and moving forward. And this definitely has to do with love, because what was crossing you is the King of Cups. So you fell for someone maybe who was not so great for you, or maybe you were in a long-term relationship with someone who didn't treat you as well as they could have or should have. And I do feel like you've had to choose here to leave something behind, and it's not been an easy choice. This is Seven of Swords is a card of like taking what you can and moving on, because this is like commonly like a runaway kind of feeling card, but I do feel like in this instance it's like you took the shirt off your back and whatever you could carry, and you got yourself out of a situation that was toxic, maybe even abusive or just traumatic in other ways, because abuse isn't always physical, it's emotional. And a lot of the times if you're dealing with narcissistic people or people who have narcissistic leaning tendencies, there's a lot of manipulation and gaslighting that goes on, and it drives you into this perpetual loop where you almost feel insane. And that is usually the intention behind it, because then you're second guessing yourself instead of second guessing that person. Now, in the past, you have the Sun card, which I found kind of interesting, but with all of the other cards that came out here and this involving some sort of death, I do feel like this card of the past is like maybe you felt like you were happy, maybe you felt like you were joyous in this relationship or situation with this person, and sometimes when we are getting over a breakup and we're trying to move on from someone, we go back and we think, and we sometimes even idealize or overemphasize the positive features and the positive aspects instead of seeing from an unbiased perspective all of the good and the bad. And I do feel like that's kind of this energy. There's a term for it. I can't put my finger on it right now, but it's almost like a widow's ideology, and it doesn't have to be a widow, it could be a widower. But I do feel like sometimes when we are moving on from someone and it's that uncomfortable shifting where we're in the middle of healing, we're kind of in between healing, being healed and doing the healing, where we're trying to understand, like, how did I get myself in that situation? How was I attracted to that person even? Sometimes we just try to look for just the goodness that we saw. And a lot of the times it can be built on an illusion of optimism, where you see the potential in someone instead of seeing them for what they are. You see an aspect of yourself, a refraction, if you will, of yourself and that person and what you would have done in their shoes given the opportunity. Now, that doesn't always mean that they should have or would have or will even do that. It's just you see or you saw that part of yourself in that person, and you understood, and if you were them, that's what you would have done. But a lot of the times, especially if you're going through a breakup and you're leaving a relationship or you're grieving the loss of a loved one, they would not have made the same decisions you would have. And that's just frequency. Sometimes people cannot always meet us at the same frequency. So you either grow together and elevate together, or you grow apart. And I do feel like you were growing apart from that person, but I do feel like because that sun is in the past here, Libra, you're really idealizing the good aspects only. And Spirit and we need you to take a look at the whole big picture here, because I do feel like you're kind of putting yourself in a corner, and it's not very, it's not helping you align to your highest self and your highest timeline, making that person a bit grander than they once were. And that has to do with cognitive dissonance, because sometimes we disassociate or compartmentalize or put people in certain boxes to validate our emotions or our feelings, or justify their behaviors or actions to pacify us in order to stay in a situation longer than we probably should, or, out of fear because we're afraid to let them go. Now, in your present energy here, Libra, you have the 10 of Wands, which is, it's a card of like carrying heavy burdens, a heavy load. It's also a card of like baggage is kind of how I like to think of this card. This is like all of those sticks are like lessons and wounds and things in our shadow that we need to work through and get over, in a sense. And I'm not saying like just get over it. That's not at all what I mean in that context. It's like, how do we take all of these wands and build something with them instead of just carrying them around all day? Or you can choose to let them go in a healthy way, which I do believe you're doing here because of this Aquarius energy. It's like healing love and how you want to be loved and how you show love versus how you'll accept love. And sometimes, especially if you're empathic, which, if you're watching this video, you probably are. And we all have empathy and narcissism. It's just personality traits. So, those things kind of ebb and flow. But there is such a thing as a toxic empath, which is basically a people pleaser, a codependent, a doormat. And it's, narcissism is one end of the spectrum and empathy is the complete opposite end of the spectrum. But both are not great, and you have to kind of find a middle ground where you're self-serving in a way that's positive for you and it's not harming anyone else, but it's also like you can understand people's emotions and perspectives, but it doesn't allow you to be walked on or walked over. So I do feel like that's kind of what this present energy is. It's trying to understand what happened in the past with the baggage and the burdens and to move forward and heal yourself, because I do feel like there's people that depend on you, Libra, because you have the Empress card. This is a mothering energy. This is a love energy. Some of you might be single mothers out there now. Some of you might be very fertile at this time, so that you might want to take precautions if that's not what you want to happen. But I do think with this Empress energy, this is like this is the near future. This is like you learning how to mother yourself. So maybe a lot of you have dealt with a mother that was toxic or narcissistic. And typically when we are attracted and drawn to certain partners, when it comes to love, it's based on childhood wounds and childhood trauma and behavioral patterns, because we're drawn to that person because they feel familiar and it's like comfortable in a way, because that's how we were raised and that's kind of our expectation of love when we're growing up. And when we learn how to love people and see things, it's from the ages of 0 to 7. So those are the most impactful years in a child's life. And if you weren't loved or cared for properly from the ages 0 to 7, then chances are you're carrying a lot of baggage and wounds around with you your whole entire life without even realizing it. And a lot of the times you might find yourself in cyclical relationship patterns where it's not very even or reciprocal or healthy. And that's due to unhealed wounds, unhealed trauma, those sorts of things. So I do feel like this Empress energy is not only asking you to learn how to mother yourself properly, it's asking you to tap into the feminine energy, which, if you're a single mother, that's a kind of hard thing to do, but you have to do it for your children. And that's going to be shifting your whole mindset but I do feel like there's a lot of growth that's happening for you internally here that will reflect eventually externally, because there's a lot of positive cards to come here, Libra. So it's not all like doom and gloom. Don't lose hope or faith or whatever. There's a lot of healing that you're doing, and it's going to show in the future because you have good stuff coming. Now, if this message has resonated so far, please smash that like button. It helps my channel grow. And I will do the next card. This is the Hermit card. This is like what's your power here? What can you do in this situation? So not only are you doing this healing, you're doing this introspective work. The Hermit is all about like self-awareness and going within and battling these monsters in the shadows. It's seeing them for what they are instead of being afraid and running away. It's tapping into that subconscious energy, because the ages 0 to 7 is our subconscious personality building, and that's what that happens. So you're really trying to go back to see the way forward. And sometimes, you can't see the forest through the trees unless you're taking a step backwards or, out of the tree line. It's a very tough thing to do, to go into hermit mode and self-reflection mode, because then you're taking full accountability and you're radically accepting what was and what wasn't okay. And that is a very challenging thing to do if you've had no mothering before. If you've never been properly mothered, you're having to start over from scratch. And I'm getting that Sarah Bareilles song called Islands. I love that song because it's basically like you are your own island and no one can save you other than yourself. And sometimes that's just a painful realization when, you had hopes or dreams of something else that would be, or when you had hopes and dreams of life being a little different, I don't know how else to phrase that, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying here, Libra. So the next card I have for you is about how is this going to affect people around you. This 3 of Cups is like people are celebrating you. They're celebrating, maybe you overcoming your fears or whatever challenges that have come your way. They're celebrating you growing in your sense of self-worth and value. They're celebrating that you were strong enough to walk away or run away, if you had to run away, whatever, from a situation that was not serving you and not helping you align to your highest best self and your highest best timeline. Sometimes people are just takers and, they don't understand giving because they've never had to give before. And that has to do with their mothering and their shadow aspects. And you can't fix other people. You can only fix yourself. So make sure you remember that, Libra. Like, as much as you want to help someone else as you're going through this growth and development, people can only meet you or match your frequency, if they've been there. And a lot of people, even if you try to show them the way, they may not be ready to listen. Like, they might hear you, but they're not listening. So, just try to focus on you and your self-growth and those sorts of things, because there's positive stuff to come. Now, in your hopes and fears, you have the 6 of Pentacles. This is all about keeping a generous spirit, an open heart, an open mind. This is also about reciprocity. It's a, Libra's card, the scales of balance here in harmony. So I do feel like there's going to be karmic justice coming in to help you. And, you have another 6 here in your outcome. So you have 2 6s, which I like to think of these cards as like twin flame. So you might be dealing with some sort of twin flame energy, but don't confuse a twin flame with a gaslighting, manipulative partner. Twin flames should not be doing those sorts of things. So a lot of people confuse twin flames and they're like, well, that person lied to me and they cheated on me and they betrayed me and they made me a third party in a situation. That's not a twin flame. It's not. It's probably a karmic, but sometimes they look very similar. So keep that in mind. But with the 6 of Wands and your outcome here, very positive, very joyous, very celebratory. This is a card of success and victory. So this is like overall great for your soul's growth. A lot of positive things will come from you understanding your self-worth and your value and your shadow aspects. So very, very good reading for you, Libra. Even though it sounds a little ominous at first, I do feel like it's a lot of positive stuff to come, because you're healing yourself and you're doing it for yourself, not for anyone else. And that's what's the most important here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pull a bunch of oracle cards for you, Libra, and we'll just see what other messages Spirit has. If you were just here for the tarot, that's what I have for you for tarot. If you just want to hear some confirmation messages, then hang tight and I will get those out. But if you're interested in trauma coaching or one-on-one coaching or an individual personalized tarot reading, I could do that. Make sure you reach out or DM me and we can get that scheduled as well. But if you're just here for the freebie stuff, that's cool too. Totally understand. And hopefully this message does resonate for you. I do believe we are all divinely guided. I don't think many things in life are ever really a coincidence. And I do feel like there's a synchronicity if you are looking for them. So make sure you're keeping an eye out here. Okay, let's start with this one. So this is from my Archetypes deck. This is Unseen. The Unseen. I do feel like this has to do with your third eye. Maybe you're tapping into your clair abilities, your claircognizance, clear knowing, clairvoyance, clear seeing. Maybe you're just having a really epiphanous revelation. Like you're just having a lot of epiphanies or revelations or enlightenment. Things are dawning on you faster than they were before because you're shifting out of some lower vibrational state into a higher frequency. And that's usually how that happens, especially when it comes to losses or death. When we lose someone we love or we lose a job or something we thought was our identity, it's tied to our ego. And when our ego dies, that really can shift us out of old patterns and old habits, but it sends us into this like dark night of the soul where we're doing this like the ego death occurs and we're doing the soul searching of like, well, who really am I if I don't have that as my label? If I'm not a wife, if I'm not with that person, if I'm not, X, Y, and Z at this job, then who am I? And, at the end of the day, the answer is you are a soul. You are an electromagnetic being here with a divine purpose to help elevate yourself and elevate the vibrational frequency and state of everyone around you, and to in a sense save humanity and grow and learn and experience, because Earth is a school and it's a school for our soul that we go through, and hopefully we can help other people along the way and stay in a higher frequency of truth and love, because truth and love are scientifically proven to be the highest frequencies. Wow. Okay. You have two feminine cards here. I'm just kind of amazed at this. This is Yin and the Empress. So 2 and 3 might be significant here. But the Yin is all about your feminine energy. So that's just another confirmation from Spirit of what's happening for you at this time. Very positive. And then you also have for your chakra, you have the recovery card, which is great. And another confirmation with this healing, this Aquarius energy here. So you are in recovery mode, and with the Hermit, that's another confirmation as well. So the key is in the healing. The key how to open the new door or the new chapter into your new life is through healing, and that's what this is. That key, the key is recovery, because that's how you get into that's how you get access to this new life that you're creating. And this is tied to your crown chakra. So your crown chakra is the top of your head. If you're not sure what a chakra is, make sure you go check out my video on chakras. I have a lot of information over there. And chakras are scientifically proven energy centers. So this isn't like hippie woo-woo stuff. This is like science, which is why I do these videos, because a lot of the time everybody talks about all the spiritual stuff, but they don't really have the psychological backing or the scientific understanding to explain or elaborate on what it really is. And that's kind of why I started this channel too, because during my own ego death and my dark night of the soul, I didn't really have very many references besides a lot of books to refer to, and YouTube is a great way to get information out there. So that's why I make these videos for you and for me. So the next card I have is from my Power of Love deck. It's called Tolerance. It says you appreciate others' points of view because you sense the love in everyone. So I do feel like if you were waiting to make a decision when it came to love, or you were just on the fence about leaving a person, you had to really dive in deep and understand their perspective. But it's also like you understood their perspective, but you also knew how much you were going to put up with. And that's why you had that 7 of Swords here. It's like walking away, and you're not taking those 2 swords because you're like, it's not worth it. Now, the next card I have is from my Moon Oracle deck. It says a personal issue reaches resolution. Full moon in Cancer. You might be dealing with a Cancer sign, or you might have a lot of Cancer in your chart. But pay attention to the lunar cycles. I haven't talked about them very much lately, but there's a lot of eclipses happening in the north nodes and south nodes, and those are going to be significant periods for everyone collectively because there's a lot of shifts happening. Now this one says, I release all negative thoughts of the past and all worries of the future. This is kind of being in that like here and now, and that might be also tied to this unseen card. It's like maybe you're having a lot of anxiety because you're not sure exactly where you're headed, but you just know it's the right thing to do, or like the right way to go. So it's like, you know, your inner knowing has this sense that you are headed in a positive direction. You're just not sure exactly where that is. And that's okay, because sometimes when we shift and we go through changes, we have to kind of flounder around a little bit to get our footing. And when we're able to stand on our own 2 feet again, we embody this like Six of Pentacles, open heart space, generosity, kindness, love again. And it just takes a little bit when you're going from 5 of Pentacles to 6 of Pentacles, because the tarot is a progression, and that's what the cards are all about. It's about progress and moving forward and ending and clearing cycles. And I do see that you're doing that. Now, this card is from my Third Eye Intuition deck. It says, practice, set aside some time today to be intuitive. Just journal or doodle, sit with your thoughts. What intuitive direction is waving at you? And are you surprised, or is this something you've known for a long time? So if you're not sure how to channel or transmute anxiety, I recommend meditation. I recommend music. I recommend, journaling, number one, but gratitude journals are a great way to kind of get stuff out there, because love and fear cannot coexist at the same time. So if you're in an attitude of gratitude, you're kind of in that here and now state of being, and it's hard for fear to exist when you're practicing self-love in a way. So this card is from my I Ching deck, number 3. It says sprouting. Like a plant putting in our roots in all directions, the inner life reaches out into the world, experiencing resistance for the first time. The creative drive of heaven and earth joins together and grows, bursting with life and desire to fulfill. It's too early to limit possibilities, so strengthen your resolve and gather support, human or otherwise, to help expand your awareness and influence. What is beginning, and where is the growing center, and where can you find help for it? So this also says constancy bears fruit, and you don't use this to have a direction to go. Don't use this to have a direction to go. Fruitful to establish feudal lords. Well, I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I do think this is about consistency and lifestyle changes and building habits, and it's being in this recovery mode. So when you're in this recovery mode, you're sprouting new seeds. You know, anything you've sowed in the last year is going to be cyclically growing. Like if you've been, really throwing yourself into fitness, I do feel like you're going to see results and those sorts of things. If you've been trying to do, transmute your pain by picking up a new hobby, you're going to be skillful at that over time. That's what sprouting is about. It's like, it's the constancy that shows off and pays off. It's the slow and steady wins the race in a way. Habits take 90 days to form, and then it becomes a part of our lifestyle and a part of our routine. So keep that in mind as you're pursuing whatever lifestyle changes you're trying to implement at this time. Now, the last card I have for you is Elephant. Sorry, you can't see that very well. There goes Elephant. Elephants are very wise. They have great, great memories. This is just kind of a fun side fact. The elephants can remember, like, from decades ago where bodies of water lie. So I don't know why that's significant, but, water ties to the moon, and it ties to the tides, and it ties to our emotional cycles. So maybe you have some emotional wounding that you need to go back and go over. But this one says, use your sense of empathy to iron out differences in your family or in your personal and professional relationships. So yeah, for some of you, this might have to do with family stuff, from the ages 0 to 7 or onward. For others of you, it might have to do with career wounds or, being taken advantage of by a boss or something like that. Definitely relevant here. But yeah, Libra, that's what I have for you. Hopefully this message helped. If it did, again, please smash that like button. It helps my channel grow. I greatly appreciate it. If you're interested in coaching, I do lifestyle coaching, trauma coaching, healing, shadow work, all of those sorts of things. I just dive into a little bit of everything. If you're interested in a one-on-one tarot reading, I can do that as well. But yeah, that's what I have for you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this helped, and I will see you next time.